Hi there, my name is Mr. Pete, and I am currently reading Louis Sachar's Holes. Today we are jumping into chapter 15. We had a lot of stuff happen yesterday. We've had the gold tube be given to Mr. Pendanski by X-Ray. He gets to go back to camp to take the day off while we have the warden coming to kind of lay into Mr. Pendanski about giving these boys more water. Let's find out what happens next. Those first thoughts of the warden are very interesting. As always, let's find out who she is, and let's find out what happens with this gold tube. Chapter 15. Again, to my kids, right setting. Last chapter, we went from the mess hall all the way out to the lake. Here, we're still at the lake with Mr. Pendanski filling the canteens. All right, so let's get started with chapter 15. Mr. Pendanski filled the canteens. The warden got a pitchfork out of the back of the pickup. She poked it through X-Ray's dirt pile to see if anything else might have been buried in there as well. After you drop off X-Ray, I want you to bring back 3 wheelbarrows, she said. X-Ray got in the pickup. As the truck pulled away, he leaned out the window and waved. 0, said the warden. I want you to take over X-Ray's hole. She seemed to know that 0 was the fastest digger. Armpit and Squid, you'll keep digging where you've been, she said, but you're each going to have a helper. Zigzag, you help Armpit, Magnet will help Squid, and Caveman, you'll work with 0. We're going to dig the dirt twice. 0 will dig it out of the hole, and Caveman will carefully shovel it into a wheelbarrow. Zigzag will do the same for Armpit, and the same with Magnet and Squid. We don't want to miss anything. If either of you find something, you'll both get the rest of the day off and a double shower. So she's clearly looking for something important that's connected to this gold tube because she's being very thorough, which makes you wonder about this camp. What's this camp really for? When the wheelbarrows are full, you ought to dump them away from this area. We don't want any dirt piles to get in the way. The warden remained at the site for the remainder of the day, along with Mr. Pendanski and Mr. Sir, who showed up after a while. Occasionally, Mr. Sir would leave to take water to the other groups of campers, but otherwise, he and the water truck stayed parked there. The warden saw to it that nobody in Group D was ever thirsty. Stanley did as he was told. He carefully looked through all the dirt dug up by 0 as he shoveled it into a wheelbarrow, though he knew he wouldn't find anything. It was easier than digging his own hole. When the wheelbarrow was full, he took it a good distance away before dumping it. Notice that he knows they're not going to find anything there because, of course, he found it somewhere else. The warden couldn't keep still. She kept walking around, looking over the boys' shoulders and sticking her pitchfork through the dirt piles. You're doing fine, just fine, she told Stanley. Now, again, as we think about the character traits of the warden, we don't know anything about her other than how she treated Mr. Pendanski in the last chapter, and that she really wants to find something related to this tube. But think about her character traits here. She's acting in a certain way. She kept walking around looking over the boy's shoulders and sticking her pitchfork through the dirt piles. Is there a word to describe how she's acting there? You can post it down below. After a while, she told the boys to switch places so that Stanley, Zigzag, and Magnet dug in the holes, and 0, Armpit, and Squid shoveled the excavated dirt into the wheelbarrows. Highlight excavated. Excavated is when you are digging into the ground for something. You are trying to bring something up. You excavate in Egypt to find like the Pharaoh's tombs, or you excavate to find a time capsule that was buried in the ground. After lunch, 0 took over digging again, and Stanley returned to the wheelbarrow. There's no hurry, the warden said several times. The main thing is not to miss anything. The boys dug until each hole was well over 6 feet deep and wide. Still, it was easier for 2 boys to dig a 6-foot hole than it was for 1 boy to dig a 5-foot hole. All right, that's enough for today, the warden said. I've waited this long. I can wait another day. Mr. Sir drove her back to her cabin. I wonder how she knew all our names, Stanley said as he walked back to the compound. She watches us all the time, said Zigzag. She's got hidden microphones and cameras all over the place, in the tents, the rec room, the shower. The shower? Asked Stanley. He wondered if Zigzag was just being paranoid. talked about that word yesterday. Paranoid is officially now one of our vocabulary words, and it does mean you're worried about everything, maybe over worried about everything, almost in a crazy way. The cameras are tiny, said Armpit. No bigger than the toenail on your little toe. Stanley had his doubts about that. He didn't think they could make cameras that small. Microphones? Maybe. He realized that was why X-Ray didn't want to talk to him about the gold tube at breakfast. X-Ray was afraid the warden might have been listening. So if you remember in yesterday's chapter, Stanley was trying to ask X-Ray about the tube, and X-Ray was like, I don't know what you're talking about. One thing was certain. They weren't just digging to build character. They were definitely looking for something. And whatever they were looking for, they were looking in the wrong place. Stanley gazed out across the lake toward the spot where he had been digging yesterday when he found the gold tube. He dug the hole into his memory. What a great way to end a chapter. He dug his hole into memory. I mean, that's a definitely hyperbole. You don't really dig a hole into your memory. It's also a metaphor. He's making a note in his mind of where that space is. We're comparing that to digging that hole and putting it in there to remember. Okay? So they continue digging. They're working together in teams. They're getting plenty of water. The warden is helping along. They haven't found anything because Stanley knows they're looking in the wrong place. All seems to be going well, though. Zero is back at camp. All right. Not really much more to say here other than, what's the gold tube? Thank you, as always, for joining me with another awesome book, this one by Louis Sachar, but we have lots more books here, so please make sure that you find them, help your classrooms out, or if you're a student reading at home and you need some extra reading for your 30 minutes of reading or whatever your reading log time stuff is, please use any of the books I have up here. And of course, questions, comments are appreciated. Please subscribe, hit that bell, so that we can continue this conversation, just not in our classrooms, but in classrooms around the United States and around the world. All right? Thank you so much for joining me. I will see all of you on the next page. Peace.